first thing that we always start with every one of our podcasts is, what's your small piece of advice, your one percenter, that you would give to blokes to make them that little bit better every day?
Big question, important question, hard question for me to answer because it's kind of complicated. But I think understanding your own consciousness to the degree that you can and how it connects you to everyone else's consciousness, that's probably the easiest that I can do it.
Yeah, mate, that's a really good start, and I think people are going to love the way that we sort of continue to unpack that.
Cool.
Next question being, like, how do you use that in everyday life?
Yeah. It kind of guides and shapes you in ways you don't really understand. I've always been really in my head, so I'm always trying to think what's the right thing to do next, to think and counter-think and think and go round again and really up in my head about the right way to go about things. Consciousness-wise and understanding how you connected to everything, it's kind of more of a feeling. Instead of trying to think your way through every situation, you got to trust there's things that in your brain you don't necessarily know the right way to go about. It's like this, in your brain and in who your ego is and who your personality is, a lot of that is stuff that is learned, like things that you've learned in your life. It's things that you've been taught. And a lot of those we know aren't always correct. I spent a lot of my time in school and in previous jobs, in call centres, things like that, being told I needed to say less, speak less, talk less, do it all quicker, just bang, 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 just rip through it. And that really affected my sense of personality because it's not who I am. I'd rather take the time to communicate properly with someone. And now I found myself in a society, so I just learned that I should say less, I should be less, and no one wants to hear it. But of course, that then caught up with all these inner frustrations and resentments because I feel like I've got so much that I need to communicate, and communicating is two ways, so take in. So I felt really limited by what I'd learned in my life from the jobs and schools and all the other places where they try and get you to fit in, to sit in a certain box. And I felt really disconnected from my own agency. I didn't realise that, of course, but I was really depressed. And obviously I've been through some stuff too. That comes up in how I got to it. But being really depressed and feeling like you don't fit into anyone's boxes for the longest time, and being taught that the way that you naturally and authentically want to interact with the universe and the people in it is wrong and you need to do it differently, you just kind of cut and prune and trim off all your connections and how to be yourself. So then you just get more depressed, more disconnected, and you don't feel like really there's anything you can do about it to improve your lot in life or become the person that you feel that you need to be, because you can't think a way out of that problem.
Thanks, man. And like, if this is obviously going to be a fairly heated conversation, and there's quite a lot of emotion that Nathan has in sort of his topic. So just for anyone that is listening, remember Lifeline, 13, 11, 14, great service here Incredible. In Australia. If you're anywhere else in the world or in Australia to that point, and you are struggling with sort of some mental health stuff, we do recommend chatting to a GP, or really just chat to anyone. It's really important, talk to your mates, talk to anyone, get the conversation happening. At the same time, if you're getting value out of these podcasts or vodcasts, we would love it if you'd subscribe to our channel and like any of our videos that we sort of put out. And if you've got any content ideas that you want us to sort of follow up on, we'd love to hear them in the comment section below. Nathan, mate, you've already mentioned a little bit about your sort of story and how that's led to, your understanding and where you're at now. Tell us a little bit about your history. Where did your mental health story start?
Long before I was aware of it, of course. Long before, and that's the thing. Hindsight's so incredibly powerful, being able to sit back and review these experiences that I'm with right now. I'm really, really grateful for, to be able to, be the person I am this second and then review my thoughts, who I was then, and see how things have changed. I'd consider my mental health journey to have really started when I was a teenager because of some experiences I had, but it was probably even earlier than that. Just in school, just meeting primary and secondary socialisation. Oh, not primary, I was good, incredible family, but I just wanted to play and talk to kids and stuff. And so that immediately found myself in situations where I was getting moved to school and I was separated from all the other students. I was forced to sit in the front of the classroom, just the teachers going, yeah, this kid messed around for 90% of the lesson and then just do all his work in the last couple of minutes. She said the problem is the other kids can't. The kids are just distracting him. So I didn't understand that, but I'd say to Mum, I don't understand why the teachers don't like me. So it started there, and then it was the rest of the kids, because obviously I was a bit different to everyone else. And so I really morphed into, for want of a better word, the group bitch. That's how it felt like. But also the class clown to a degree. Like, I found a way that when people would pick on me because I was different, because I didn't understand what was wrong with me. I figured if people wanted to have a go at me, I must have done something wrong, but I wasn't sure what it was. So, and I didn't want to fight people. I just wanted to be friends with people. So I started learning that there was wrong things about me, wrong things that I could do that I didn't understand, and then started adapting my behavior into that class clown. So I was able to deflect the situations and make these people who didn't like me by making them laugh, even if it was at me. So I suppose I started internalizing it then, but yeah. Then the rest of the real stuff, and then I left that school. I went to a different country, had an incredible experience for a couple of years in England. My last 2 years of high school I did over there. My mum was a social worker. She got recruited out of uni. So I went and lived over there, and so I just skipped that. I just found myself in a scenario much more like when I was younger, before I started high school, where people just saw you as you were. And I got along really well. Obviously, I could see there was other people getting bullied and the rest of that kind of stuff too. I was like, okay, so school is just like school. But I started off by being kind of a novelty because I was Australian. And that led into people, taking me for a grain of salt and realising, hey, this guy's all right. So I ended up, I'll describe it in the school hierarchy as, I suppose, upper middle class. Like, we were skaters and musicians, so we were never the cool kids, but like, we weren't nerds. We didn't get beaten on, and everyone kind of had a bit of respect for it because we did it well. And we were really fun. And so, yeah, that went really well. And so I got a chance. I got into music. I got into skating. I got into alternative culture. And I've never stopped. Like, that's made me what I am. So when I was 17, I came back to Australia, started college. I'm like, right, let's go. Let's do it. I'm ready. I know what I want to do with my life. I want to be Metallica. Let's go. Then I met a girl. And that was a really, really, really difficult experience because, so you heard me say that before, I just wanted people to like me and stuff. So I did whatever was required for that. And then in England, I didn't need to do things for people to like me. It just kind of worked. I fell in with the right people. I got to be myself. The more I was myself, the more people naturally respect your authentic expression. They don't know they're doing it. They're just like, oh, that's that guy doing his thing. He couldn't be anything else. So I then cruised into a relationship. I met a girl at a gig, and I went, this is, okay, fantastic. Now I'm the singer in the death metal band. This is exactly the way I see my life going. She was very broken, had a very, very hard upbringing, and I did my best to understand that. So hurt that I would never kind of abandon someone that was clearly that vulnerable. But yeah, she was too broken for that. She's in jail now. Only this year or last year or whatever it was. But that was a pretty interesting point to vindicate, because the things that she went to jail for, because I still never really understood what happened. Okay, so how can I even explain that? Basically, it was a very abusive, controlling, second. There was the real world that people saw, then there was the world in my head that only I thought she knew about. And very quickly, early on, she'd nailed it down because she was very jealous, very possessive, and very controlling. And I realise now, would just do stuff to dangle you on a string just for the sheer fun of it. I couldn't comprehend that someone like that would exist, and yet they did, and they were just assuming that they would abuse me and I would break and leave them just like everyone else, because that's what they were hurt by. So they were trying to stop themselves being abandoned by, controlling the terms of them being abandoned by forcing people away, by doing all the nastiest shit they could possibly do to someone. But I didn't, and I wouldn't, so it was 4 years of just absolutely grim emotional torture, suicide threats if you did anything wrong. And what it came down to was just like, you said you loved me. If you loved me, you wouldn't hurt me. This hurts me. Why would you do that? Are you a bad person? Because a good person wouldn't do that to someone they loved. And that logic made every piece of abuse and request absolutely cutting to my sense of self. And so I just lost it all. I lost all my friends. I lost everything but my desire, a handful of friends, and my desire to still play music. And that's kind of all that I was left with. And so in the end, But by the time I realised how bad it was, like my family didn't realise how bad it was until they overheard my half of a phone conversation. And then mum being very experienced in these kind of children, I guess, because she was a social worker and working with getting kids placed in foster families. And so if your kid's getting placed in foster families, it's come from a really, really, really difficult place. So mum was really experienced in the signs of kids who'd gone through this abuse. And of course, this girl had gone through that abuse too. Naturally, that's how she got there, like horrific stuff. I don't begrudge her any of it. I wouldn't want to be her, like, kind of thing. So, she knew that she couldn't really kind of get me away from it because that would drive a wedge if she made it her or me, that maybe she would lose and I would go with this chick. And that was totally how that she operated. So mum just did her best through this torture to not lose me to it. And I came out the other end somewhat sane. I ended up with enough strength to go, enough is enough. Yeah, I know that you'd cheated on me a bunch of times and you'd leveled that with me. And I'm like, we can get through this, etc. I now know that you've understood that you just genuinely could not comprehend that I wasn't out cheating on you because of the insane. So you would then just get blind drunk and do the same to get back at me. I understand. I know that was the methodology, but it's been with one of my mates now and my friends know about it and I got to make a choice. Like, who do I want to be? Like, I can't sit down at a table with my friends who want good stuff for me with you when they know. I can't lie anymore. And so I had to pick, so I picked them and I went, yep, sorry, game over, man. So, and
is that, sorry, like just to drag it back a little bit,
yeah.
like, is that how you started to see your 1%? Is that where that started to come from?
No way, not for years and years and years and years and years.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack in that because that's going to relate to so many people. There's a lot of experience in that sort of, that led me to, I was in the same boat or I was in the same boat there at that situation. So what sort of, if that wasn't the driver behind that 1% and where did it come from? And
I just want to point out one thing, man. It's around domestic violence, and you know, not to be a preachy men's group or anything like that, but we can share some links of some very important people in Tasmania that are doing some really great work in the men's domestic violence sector. And although 1 in 3 women experience domestic violence, 1 in 5 men experience domestic violence as well. And it's often not so much the physical sort of side of domestic violence that men experience, it's the emotional and psychological. So, and just to sort of reaffirm, like, we're listening to your story, man, like that sounds like that's sort of where you're at. But yeah, please carry on.
Thank you. I wasn't necessarily here to say that, but yeah, you know, that's what's come out. So basically,
that's good. That's what we want.
That's what we do. What was that again, Reese?
Yeah. So keep going. Let's get up to this 1% and where these.
Yeah. Like, so I'll fast forward a bunch now. So that's where I came from. I'm a metal kid. I love music. I love people. I love doing everything. And I was always into skating. It was originally motorbikes. My dad got me a Pee Wee 50 when I was 5. And then when I got properly into music, I never thought that I could do, I don't know. I never thought I'd get a chance to do anything else. I basically, so yeah, all this time through with this chick and the rest of it, I carried on my path of becoming a musician. I never thought I could get there. And this is really interesting. I never thought I could get there, but that made it a lot easier to get there. Now I believe that I can get there, and with that becomes all kinds of procrastination. And that's basically where I'll probably end this, because that's where I'm at this point in my life. Now I believe in myself. How do I motivate myself? It was a lot easier when I'm just like, I'm never going to get there. I'm just going to play in a local band because that's what I like. But then that started to make it to the place where I believe anything is possible. And I think it's definitely my path. Now it's like I need to move towards it if I want to get there, and that's really hard when you realise you think you might be able to do it. So yeah, basically I just kept playing in local bands. It's the only thing I didn't quite lose. Eventually I gained the strength to get rid of her, and so where am I now? So I was 17 when I got into that. I'm now 21 years old. I've been working in a call centre. I found a job that I can talk, and so that was what it was was always told to do less of, but that's the one thing that's always got me a job is talking, for sure. Call centres through to radio, it's been my voice in this call screenings that gets me every single job I've ever had. Yeah. And that's why, that's a little bit of the source. But So basically, yeah, I was just working in call centers and playing in death metal bands, and as of yet, utterly unaware of how depressed or anything I was. I'd just been, because this is it. With this very damaged person, it was a very damaged person within a codependent relationship. So then you basically share a consciousness in a way. So every move I end up doing, I overthink what they might want before I even consider doing it. Before, it was like stuff would happen. She's like, how could you hug that girl? You know, blah, blah, blah. You know how that makes me feel. I want to kill myself, blah, blah, blah. It's your fault. Why would you do this, you bad person? I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Like, I didn't mean that. And of course I fucking didn't, because I didn't. That's not how it works.
Just a hug.
Yeah, from someone you've known since kindergarten, and you're at school. Like, anyways. So the hardest part for me was having to do for this secret world. In my outside world, I had to behave, and no one would understand. So I know I hurt a lot of people by cutting them off, and that's the part that hurts the most, because they didn't deserve that. I just wasn't quite strong enough. But suddenly very depressed, but had no idea of it. So, but I just learnt this mindset from this person, that there was a series of ways to behave, and if you overthink hard enough, it's just like, hey, I want to do this. But if you second guess and triple guess and quadruple guess yourself, you can find a path to torture. You can find a path to disaster in every authentic move you want to make. So you just learn to just check yourself at everything. So I just got sadder and sadder and sadder. My body hates it. I've never understood it, but I've always been overweight. I've always been in so much pain. And now I'm seeing remedial massage therapists and doing yoga and been to physio, and I've seen x-rays and the rest of it. Everyone's like, dude, you're in a lot of pain. What can we need to get you sorted out. I never understood that back then. So, food was always good because it would temporarily make you feel better, but I also think it long term, when I've lost weight dramatically, I never understood why it hurt so much, but now I understand all the way the fascia and everything is wired up and connected in my body. Like, there's a lot of pain. Like, I've got some nice bruises just from some work on some fibrosis that my guy found in my arm. He's literally just like grinding a metal thing. This was on Wednesday, and like all of this hurts so much. But unlocking all of these bits in my arm, lying on there, like my chest uncontracted or whatever, and I could breathe. Like, it's crazy. Anyways, so I didn't really know what to do. So I just kept working in call centers, kept playing in bands. And then I started, when I was about 25, I started to realize, because of the work that I was doing, that I was quite anxious. And I had a word for it, anxiety. Okay, so, and I've always seen psychologists. Definitely see a psychologist for sure. Always seen psychologists. I've only taken 2 weeks of any kind of medication for antidepressants or anything in my life. It was just 2 weeks of SSRIs. I needed something because I was losing my job and I was losing my mind when I was working for Apple, which I absolutely loved, like helping people with tech support for their products. I love the computers. I learned to make music on them. Like, I love talking to people. I just love being part of something. But yeah, I ended up in case management, working from home, like in 2014, long before we all worked from home in 2020. So we're doing Zoom meetings back then. And you're just alone. You're just alone with your emails in your home, and, you know, you put something off, and I take ownership of people's cases. I'll do whatever I can. Here's my email address. We'll take care of this until you're done. And then you can just never escape it.
Yep.
Because it's inside your own house. It was brutal. So I was doing that and was really anxious. And so I think there must be something wrong with me because I'm really anxious. That's something I'd like to say. Anxiety is often there for a reason. And my favorite quote is, if I can remember this correctly, it is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a society that is sick. Meaning, if you feel messed up because you don't fit in and feel right, maybe it's because society's not something that you can get to the place you need to go in. Maybe so basically, if you feel out of whack, maybe it's not you. Maybe it's that the world is weird and you shouldn't feel bad about not finding your place yet. And this is just part of the process. So I tried the anti-anxiety meds, just made me more anxious, and I never wanted any part of that. But now I had a word for it, and that's where it kind of really started. So in the end, and that's where the interesting experience that woke all this up in me, that starts to happen pretty shortly. So in this case, I'm about 25. My bands are doing pretty good. Like, I'm playing in punk bands, I'm playing in metal bands, I'm being good at music. No massive successes, like it's underground music in an underground place, and it's extreme and we love it. But I could tell by my peers that, you know, I'm starting to do pretty well. Like, I'm playing with really good people. We're writing good songs. People are starting to, you know, sing the words to your songs back and buy T-shirts and stuff. Like, the dream was starting to happen. I had all those checklists. And that's when I got really, really messed up, because I hadn't really understood what had happened to me when I was 17. I'm still really trying to understand. And now, like I said, with that person now being in jail for basically how they are and what they do, only last year finding that out, that really provided a lot of context for me for what happened when I was 17 and just how much that messed me up because of just what caliber that person was and what they were capable of. Because I still didn't really believe that it wasn't my fault, really. Like, even I'm about to turn 33. That was a long time ago, but it was only 4 years in my life. But learning to unthink the way I learned, because that really just hyper-focused the what have I done wrong? How can I apologize my way out of this and make sure it never happens again so I can feel okay?
And you said you're sorry to interrupt, but you've been seeing psychologists a bit.
Yeah, plenty.
Has this come up like recently in the fact that you've hung on to this from when you were 17 for so long, or have you been aware of this for the whole process?
It's come up recently-ish, yeah, to a degree, because then a lot of other shit happened in my life that I was much more obvious. If I'm feeling bad, I can draw a 1 + 1 = 2 to that. That was really easy to do. So it's really now, and that's kind of, that life happened between, you know, where I'm up to in my story, about 25 until I was about 30. What happened there? There was so much going on that it was pretty easy to see where the problem was. Now I'm out of that. I've moved away from that situation. Now it's becoming a bit more clear, the paths from here to there. Now I've got a bit more clear head. So it was a recent thing.
And where are you? Sorry to just looking at how long our episodes are.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Just trying to
Yep.
fast forward a little bit more. So fast forward to like whenever the next sort of,
Basically,
obviously
yeah.
it's
Cool.
all significant, but where did the 1% start? How did you really get there? How did you get to the meat and bones of it? And how do you use it in your life?
So I've got all this pain in my chest. And what it comes down to, I've got emotional pain. And so I didn't really know that, I didn't really have a concept for that. I didn't really know what that was. But you feel this ache, this pain. That started to drive me. Because when I became aware of it, so basically I was very depressed when I was going through stuff. And then, can I talk about drugs?
Yeah.
Then I started getting high, and then I started getting anxious. Not because I was getting high, but because that had started the conversation between my head and my heart again, and I realised just I had been depressed and was just flatlining like this for a long time. So then it became anxious, and I realised there's a big difference between anxiety and complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And so I realised what I had was a very complex set of conditions for just about anything I could encounter that would mess me up. So cannabis was a big path for me in coming out of depression and becoming a bit more awake. And then I became very anxious because then I started acting out the way I was in that relationship in a situation where I wasn't, and it didn't fit. And so I kept searching for problems that wasn't there. It was brutal, but that pain in my chest was actually, as far as I can tell, was actually my repressed desire, energy, path, what I'm meant to do. Because, and it's basically... So I was at that stage in my life, and then I got a chance to go work at our local radio station. And for me, that was a big one, a huge one. It was a job finally for me, something for me. I got the job because I worked at Apple and I loved music, and they needed someone to run the Apple computer in the studio. All my work with music, it now had a commercial benefit, like I had a role in society and stuff I could do in a direction I could change. But I had an experience that woke all this up 2 weeks before I started there. Long story short, when I was in England, I got into music. I learnt to play music from a dude called Arthur Walwyn, and he's like proper famous now in his way. He's played Wembley, he does his own tours. Like, the dude's an absolute monster. He was YouTube famous for doing like the pop punk covers of stuff long before anyone else was. Anyways, so AJ's music was really good, and 2 weeks before I joined the radio station, I heard one of his songs playing as I unexpectedly walked into the wrong supermarket and it was just playing on the supermarket radio. He's not famous enough to be playing on supermarket radio. Those radio stations just get songs from anyone. You can choose, when you digitally distribute anything to Spotify, you can choose to have it put in thousands of shopping centres around the world. So all the things lined up, and AJ's song played, and me and my girlfriend were walking along, we're singing along to the song, and then I just went, oh my God, the world's gone crazy, but we're the only two who know it. And she doesn't even know it yet. I'm like, what song are we singing? And she's like, and so we took a video of this insane thing of someone I'd known, 10 years ago or more, their song that's now got famous playing because we missed Coles and went to Woolies and just so happened to be there. So I called him up in England and I talked to him, and as a result of that conversation, because I spent the afternoon between that happening and talking to him thinking there must be more. There must be a reason, because why today? If this could possibly happen and this insane thing could occur, why today? And so I talked to him on the phone, and it turns out, and I've got all the Facebook timestamps from when we messaged the chats and everything, it was 10 years to the day that he and I were at the Brixton Academy watching like Atreyu and 36 Crazy Fish staring up at the stage and dreaming, will that one day be us? So 10 years to the day of that, his song plays in the wrong supermarket that I never go to and walk into. 2 weeks later, so that basically taught me, in terms of, which is where it is, consciousness and your place in the universe, time, distance, mean nothing compared to the energy that connects us all across the globe. So they line something up 10 years out with this freak scenario that I've all got time-stamped and videoed, which is insane. And that made me go, okay, well, not only am I anxious and fucked up, but now I got to do my best. It's weird, I didn't intend on any of this, but it seems the pain that I feel in here, I'm able to connect to. I now follow that feeling instead of trying to outthink the scenario too much, because I feel better when I follow this feeling, and I can't really explain it, but it's led me to so many incredible things, including this right now.
Yeah, 100%. And that's probably one of the things, like I've been struggling. I've not said much this episode because I've just been listening, because it's been amazing. But I mean, I'm not one of those super spiritual sort of destiny sort of guys. I'm having a really tough time formulating an argument to sort of continue that sort of sphere, especially with some of the stuff you're coming out with. This and when you first started off, I was nearly not trying to pigeonhole you, but some of your experiences, like, oh yeah, 1%er, and then you came out with your experiences at 17. I'm like, oh yeah, he's like conscious because that's how people interact with you and that thing, but it's 100% not. And yeah, that's not being a spiritual dude. It's something different.
I appreciate it, because I wasn't a spiritual dude, and it's been a really different experience for me trying to understand what the hell. And this is what it comes down to, I think. And this is why I said consciousness in the beginning. If there's anything I'd say to take away from this, is do your own research on what consciousness is. Because if you have a look into it, you find no one has any fucking idea what it is. And if you think you know what things are in life, and you're like, this is how it is, and this is how it's always going to be, and that's something you've learned from your human experience. Like, we all learn so much pain from our human experience. Part of like the spiritual transcendentation, it's just becoming the version of yourself that you are, when that's the most that you could be. And that's getting rid of all the learnings that have told you you're smaller than you are. And if you look around, because look, we learn by looking at our peers and measuring ourselves and balancing ourselves with that. But unless you've got peers that are, then maybe you don't consider yourself that, but we all can be. Not at the same thing, at anything. Whatever it is in here that says to do. So my advice is do your own research. I say this to whenever I'm talking to kids at school occasionally, like if I'm in high school, I just wanted to do what I was doing when I was 16 or 17. I wanted to do music, I wanted to do skating, all the rest of that. I didn't know if I could do it. I thought I'd have to grow up one day. So I lost myself across my 20s, and approaching my 30s, I found myself, and it's doing the things that I loved when I was 16 or 17. That's the takeaway. Like, when you've got so much passion, when you've got so much what you want to do, and that's always there. You've never lost that. You can come back to that at any time and start it. You got a passion, you got something you care about, you want to do. If it fires you up, that's going to hurt if you don't do it in your chest, or it's going to guide you if you do try and do it. But if you think with your head, you'll never actually figure that out. And it wasn't until I had some crazy universe thing that I still can't explain show me that's just my lived experience now. I can't deny it. So every single day I try and remember that I'm me. I've got this weird consciousness, like with some kind of skeleton with eyes, and I can see my hand. how can I process that I've got eyes? Like, it's just our experience, right? We've got a brain powering what our eyes are doing, showing you what you're seeing. And this is just all like meat and bones and stuff. What the hell is all of this? What the hell? This is crazy. But as crazy as that is, it almost seems normal to consider outside of all of this, there's some kind of energy. My idea of consciousness is that God and the universe is the same kind of thing, and we're all part of it. Not in the sense that we're here and the universe is over there, but the universe is simply, it doesn't have a face or a name. It's all of our faces. It's all of our names. Consciousness is simply, if you take our individual consciousness and everyone at this table, then everyone in this town and everyone in this planet, that combined is the universe. And that connected, that feeling, that spiritual, whatever that pain that we feel, that guidance path, that's kind of what you need to do, I guess. And I think that everyone who's out there doing their thing is unconsciously connected to that, or you get the weirdos like me who are consciously aware of that. And so that's my 1%, is to realize that we are all capable of these incredible, incredible things. And part of it seems to be coming to terms with your pain and allowing it to guide you and transcend, because then you become bigger than what anyone else could think of what you to do. Your natural, authentic expression will take you to the paths. And by my own definitions at 16, I've already made it, but I'm still struggling to process that in my life because I'm not Metallica yet. So give me another couple of years.
You'll get there.
Well done, man.
will.
Thank
Yeah.
you. And fucking awesome story, dude. Like, thank you. Cheers, my man. Well played.
Yeah, cheers.
Look, thanks everyone. It's been a fucking awesome episode. If you like what you listen to, again, just please subscribe, like the video. It's been awesome. We're definitely going to get Nathan on again because I want to dive a little bit deeper into that topic.
I want to
think
talk
it would
about
be-
race cars and stuff.
Yeah, fuck yeah. That's been really, that's it for us. If you like what you heard, please like and share. We have some more amazing episodes coming out. Again, if there's been anything triggering, please contact Lifeline 13 11 14
Please.
or your local GP or just mates. Just mates looking after mates.
That's what we're doing now.
That's it, guys.
100%.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Cheers all. Take care.
Cheers.